bad math will instantly kill your house flipping business. Beginners waste a lot of time picking out paint colors and pretty tiles, completely forgetting that you make money when you purchase the house, not when you sell it. When you make excuses trying to force a project to look good on paper, you risk losing your life savings before you even get started on the renovation. A lot of people have asked me, have you lost money on a deal? I certainly have. But when I look at these losers, it always starts with incorrect deal analysis, because deal analysis is complex. It's not that easy to master, but once you've mastered it, you will be a lot more confident and comfortable with house flipping, and the risk will reduce by a lot. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I run deal analysis after 9 years in the business, flipping over 100 houses, averaging a 6-figure profit. Deal analysis has a formula, and it works backwards. You start from the ARV, the after repair value, and from there you deduct all the costs, the rehab costs, financing cost, selling cost, and miscellaneous cost, and your desired profit to get to your purchase price. I built a deal analyzer using this formula, and I plug all the numbers into it on every deal so that it tells me the max purchase price that I can offer. And it helps me analyze deals accurately and efficiently. If you want to download it, make sure you go to the link in the description below. The first step is to determine the ARV, how much you think the property will be worth after a renovation. This is called comping, or running comparable sales. This is where you look at properties that are in similar condition in the same neighborhood with similar features. I usually look at comps that are within a quarter-mile radius because it's a very tight radius, so it ensures that the properties are within the same neighborhood. When the properties are not in the same exact neighborhood, prices start to vary and the comps are not reliable anymore. The next important thing is to make sure that the comps are of similar features of the subject property. If the subject property has 3-bedroom, 2-bath and is about 1,500 square feet, you want to look at comps that are also 3-bedroom, 2-bath around 1,500 square feet. Because if the comp has more bedrooms or bathrooms, or if it's bigger than the subject property, then the sale price may not be a good indicator of the subject property. Some other factors that could affect the sale price include the lot size, the year built, and the layout of the property. For example, if your subject property has a more enclosed floor plan and the comp has an open floor plan, then some buyers may prefer an open floor plan to the enclosed floor plan and would be willing to pay more for the comp. Then the comp would not be a good indicator of the price for your subject property. But your goal here is to find comps that are as similar to the subject property as possible so that you can define the ARV as accurately as possible. Another example is if your subject property is about 60 years old and the comp is a new construction home, most buyers prefer a new construction home than an older home, so they would be willing to pay a lot more. But if you use that new construction as a comp, then you will be overestimating the ARV and making a big mistake. All of this is to say that determining the ARV is key, and you have to find comparable sales that are as similar and as close to the subject property as possible. You also want to be very conservative with the ARV because this is the starting point of the entire formula. If you overshoot the ARV, it doesn't matter how accurate the other numbers are, your entire calculation will be off. The next step is to subtract all the costs: the rehab cost, holding cost, selling cost, and miscellaneous cost. The rehab cost is the cost of renovation. This is usually the biggest cost. In the Bay Area, The renovation costs usually range from $100,000 to $200,000, and it's heavily determined by the scope of work. If you're doing a cosmetic flip, then the cost is on the lower side. If you're doing a heavier flip, then you're probably going to spend a lot more. The renovation cost usually comes from contractor bids, but you don't want to rely on just one contractor bid. You want to get at least 3 to 5 bids so you can compare them and make sure that you are getting the quote that's realistic, because sometimes the contractors will try to give you a bid that's low initially, and then they try to charge you on things that are not included in the bid, which is very dangerous. It's highly recommended to make sure that everything in your scope of work is included in the bid so you don't risk running into construction overruns. An important tip is to take the contractor bid and add another 10 to 20% on top of it so you can cover any change orders later on or unexpected costs. The next cost is holding cost. That's how much it costs you to hold on to this project month after month from the purchase to sale. The holding cost is your interest payment to the lender. If you're borrowing a hard money loan, the monthly payment is interest only, and you have to have this in your reserve so that you can continue making payments until you pay off the loan entirely. A factor that determines the holding cost is how long you will be holding onto the project, and this will be an estimate at the deal analysis stage, and how you determine that is very important. The hold time includes the entire period from when you purchase the house to when you sell the house. So it includes the entire renovation period and also the sale process. The renovation time is usually estimated by the general contractor, but you should take that with a grain of salt because contractors notoriously underestimate the construction timeline. So if they tell you that the project can be completed in 2 months, I would budget at least 3 months. The sale process usually takes about a month and a half. And if you think your house may take longer to sell, then you want to add more time to it. But the more buffer you have for the entire time frame, then the more buffer you will have in your reserves, and then it gives you more flexibility. The selling costs include the agent commission and the closing costs. The agent commission is a standard 5% usually, and it's split by the listing agent and the buyer's agent. But sometimes some agents may give you a concession, or some other agents may charge a little more than the standard 2.5%. So you want to find out exactly how much the agent is going to charge so you can make sure that you budget upfront. The closing costs vary based on the property sale price and the government fees and also title charges. So to get an estimate for that, you can ask your agent or a title company. And then there's the miscellaneous costs that includes property taxes, insurance, staging, and utilities. For insurance and staging, you can usually get estimates from insurance agents and stagers. And for property taxes, it's usually a percentage of the purchase price. And then utilities is usually not a significant amount. So if you budget a couple of $1,000s, that should cover it. A mistake that beginners make is to forget one or more of these costs, and that could really affect your analysis. The next step is to determine your desired profit, and you take that out before making an offer. Some people may be saying, hey, I'm going to aim to make a huge amount of profit from this deal, and then I'm going to make a very low offer. Well, that's probably not going to be smart, because if you are trying to do that and be unrealistic with the purchase price, then you probably wouldn't get the deal altogether. Even though it seems like you have the ultimate say about how much profit you can make from the deal, but it's not entirely up to you. I believe most investors has a target profit of 10% of all the money invested. So if you set a higher profit margin, more than 10%, then you're missing out on a lot of deals. But if you set a lower percentage of profit, then if the market shifts in any way, then you are getting wiped out. So the best way to do it is to follow all the other investors and set a 10% margin. That is not to say that you should run the profit margin on every deal equally, because there are going to be some deals that are not as desirable or are of higher risk. Then you may want to aim for a higher profit margin. For example, if a house has foundation issues and it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot longer to fix that, then you can aim for a higher profit margin because many buyers may not want to touch that. The final step is to land on your max purchase price, and that's a simple function of the ARV subtracting all the costs and your desired profit. After going through the previous steps, this step is pretty cut and dry because it's derived by the previous assumptions and estimates you had. A common mistake that I see beginners make is that they play with all these numbers, they massage them, they shrink their desired profit so that they can satisfy the seller on the purchase price. It's very dangerous because it defeats the whole purpose of this deal analysis. Deal analysis should be objective, and you need to look at the numbers and the numbers only, and you cannot mix your emotions into it. That's why we say you don't adjust the formula to fit the deal, and you adjust your offer price to fit the formula. Now you know how to analyze a house flip properly. In this next video, I'm going to show you why 90% of beginner flips lose money, and I'm going to break down all the top mistakes beginners make. I'll see you there.